Hey, how's everybody doing today? I want to talk about this trip that Trump is making to Asia countries right now. Now, when he wants to talk about how he wants to level the playing field, get the jobs back, increase trade with these countries, and how he keeps using this worn out, fucked up rhetoric that somehow every trade deal the United States has been in has been something to screw the U.S. and take advantage of the American people. And that's all you ever hear. You hear that on all the news. You hear that from Trump. And you hear this garbage every fucking day. Well, let me tell you something. I'm going to tell you something you probably haven't heard before. And that's that actually the United States of America has played this trade war or the jobs thing pretty well. In fact, probably as well as they could have played it. And I'm going to tell you how it is. Everybody complains about jobs, that the jobs are all taken by these other countries. But actually what happened was companies started realizing that they could get cheap workforce in from other countries. So that's what they did. They started outsourcing work to lower paying countries. So people in China, Mexico, wherever else that had a lower pay scale, the American companies were outsourcing jobs to those, which was a great thing. And the reason why it was a great thing is because most of these jobs were low paying, low end jobs that people didn't really want to work at because it was hard to have a very high standard of living. Not to mention the fact that a lot of these jobs were manufacturing jobs that created a lot of environmental problems. So why not? Why not use the world as a cheap labor force? And that's exactly what the United States companies did. They used the world as a cheap labor force. There's one of those helicopters coming by. See if I can catch it on film. So the United States actually paid it pretty well by keeping the higher paying jobs, the technology jobs, in this country and using other countries as a cheap labor force. And that's how you got Silicon Valley, and that's how you have companies like I talked about before with Skechers shoes. When they sued me, the reason I got out of the lawsuit is because they didn't want to disclose their profit margins because they were so high, they're extremely high. So then what happened is that the companies got incredibly wealthy. Companies like Skechers and Nike and Walmart and all these companies got extremely wealthy because they were buying things were being made overseas, they were bringing them in this country and they were making huge profits. So the question is what happened to all those profits? By using the world as a cheap labor source and the United States companies becoming wealthy and rich, that increased Wall Street, that increased the value of Wall Street. So the stock market went up. These companies become really wealthy. The shareholders made more wealth. All that money was accumulated and held within these companies. And then what would happen from that? The next extension of that would be that the government would tax the individual shareholders that made the money on their capital gains. They would tax the companies, the corporate companies, for the profits they made by having a cheap labor source. Then you had hedge fund managers that came in and they sold companies because the assets of the company were worth more than the share price, so they made money on that. And then the other thing too is, like I said, the government made an incredible amount of money off of the increased value of the profits that the companies were making. So what the real question is here, what did the government do with the profits they made from the companies, the increased tax money and the increased shareholder tax money that they made from these companies that outsourced all the jobs, so which now the Americans don't have any jobs because they've been outsourced, or they have the higher end jobs, the higher tech jobs, the higher, more advanced jobs, the jobs you need more education for. What happened to those other jobs? Well, they got outsourced, so now what happened to the money that came in from that outsourcing? And it went to the federal government in the form of taxes. So now you got the government's making a lot of money because these companies are making a lot of money. And what does the government do with the money? That's the question. That's the question. Did the government reinvest back into our own economy? Did the government take this jobs or this money and invest it back in small business? So did they take the money and they helped the small businessmen out? Did they take the money and reinvest it in our economy so that we would have jobs, maybe better jobs than what we had, prior to them outsourcing these jobs? No. What would happen with the United States of America is they started building up their military. And if you look at military spending over the last 20 years, 30 years, it's definitely correlated with the money that's being made by the outsource of the jobs. So the government took the money from all this outsourcing and invested trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions. In fact, almost 10 to 20% of gross national product, which is everything we make in this country, into military and wars. So when you look at military spending, it's definitely increased during this prime time that the the U.S. government has made a ton of money, and they've increased military spending with that money. They have started wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, want to start a war with North Korea. So they've used the money not to reinvest back into their people, to reinvest back into our economy, but to create military and wars. So if you want to know why we don't have any jobs in this country, if you want to know why we don't have paying jobs in this country, is because the government sucked the money out to start wars and to build a military, and not to reinvest in small business, not to invest in making, giving loans to small businessmen, educational programs, hands-on educational programs, all this stuff that could have been done to reinvest in our economy to make it so that we would have jobs now. So in comes Trump after all this has taken place. Jobs have all been taken away, or lower-end jobs taken up by other countries. Now here comes Trump. He steps in, and what does he say? He says that bad trade policies. Our government our leaders were inept. They couldn't make good deals. So now he paints the picture that we have been taken advantage of by all these countries and all these businesses because they have taken all the money out of this country. Well, they didn't take all the money out of the country. They made a lot of money by doing this kind of a program. Now where'd the money go? You need to track back where the money went. And you'll never hear it from anybody, but the Republicans have spent enormous amounts of money on the military and starting wars. I mean, I can't even imagine how much money was spent in the Iraq War and the Afghanistan and all this other stuff. So if you want to know why you don't have a job, that's why you don't have a job. You want to know why our economy is failing? Our economy is struggling. A lot of people are without a job, or a lot of people don't have much prospects for jobs. That's the reason why. If the country would have taken the money and invested it wisely, there would have been growth in job development. There would have been new jobs. There would have been jobs that could have been created in solar energy, or jobs that could be renewable jobs from renewable energy. Those are the jobs that we should have right now. But instead, we're behind on that, and we still got people like Trump pouting around that all our trade deals have been bad, and every one of our leaders has been a crook. All the leaders have been crooks up to him, and he's the one here to straighten it out. Don't fucking believe it. This guy's a fucking con man liar. And like I just told you the story of where the money went, it didn't go to other countries. It went to this country, and this country gained valuable amounts of money. Huge amounts of money, extraordinary amounts of money, probably more in the history of the world than ever this country made during those times. And instead of investing in the people, they invested in the military and wars. And that's why this country is right now struggling for jobs, because of military and wars. And that's the truth. If you want to look it up, then look it up. There's the internet for everybody to see it. So anyway, that's the take. And don't believe Trump bullshit, because that's what he wants to do. He wants to bullshit everybody. So I appreciate you watching. Thanks very much.